All right. Hey, thanks for coming out. What a beautiful day after kind of a scary day. I'm kind of amazed we have as many people here as we do. Thanks for coming. We're going to try and make this quick, but we do have a lot of information. So bear with us. If you have any questions, just ask. But we will have a question and answer period at the end. So you can wait to the end if you want, if it's something general. But if you see something specific, just let us know, okay? We have a couple special guests today. Barbara, Camden, and Susanna will be here to talk about some of the activities the county is doing. And then when we started putting this together, we realized this is the 20th anniversary of the Chisago-Lindstrom Lakes Association. 20 years, yeah, it's amazing, right? And so we wanted to recognize some of the people that started and have made this association possible over the years. So I don't know how many of these people are here today, but Dave, Claudia, John Eric, John's right here, Jeff, Jack, Karen, Rich, you guys here? Scotty here? Carol, Joyce, I see Joyce over there, Steve, Gary, and Mary Kay. I just want to thank you for all the work in establishing the association and all the work you've done over all the years. Thank you. So, big welcome to all of our members. Obviously, the members are what make the association happen. I'm Dan Heidtan, I'm the president. Craig Anderson is the vice president. He's standing in the back. He's kind of bashful. Steve Steve, I still don't know how to say your name properly, sorry, is our treasurer. And Patty Anderson is our secretary, and she's in the back also. We have some special guests. We have lid members, Gary and Steve. And then we also, as I mentioned, Camden, Barbara, and Susanna. We have a couple of other guests. Chris DeBose is here. He's a longtime friend of the lakes, and he's a current county commissioner. Who else did I see? Sorry, well, we'll have to keep going. All right, so we have some standing committees, and those of us that are on the executive committee are members of these. AIS subcommittee, finance, the communications, and program social events. But we need more volunteers, and it's going to be kind of a recurring thing we're going to talk about tonight, that we need more people to be active. You know, we've been doing most of the work we normally do, but we haven't been able to do anything kind of special. And, you know, COVID's been kind of a big problem. We had a hard time meeting. We didn't have regular meetings or doing Zoom stuff. Hopefully we can get back into a regular cadence and get together. But we really need people to be active. So if there's something here tonight you see that you really want to focus on or you're interested in, please come and see us afterwards. Volunteer. We really could use just someone who wants to help out and make some of this stuff happen. So the agenda, welcome, quick updates, guests, year in review. You guys can see this. If there's something in there, just know it's coming. Some quick updates. So this is our Loon Raft that Nolan Huffman from Troop 159 put together for us last year. You guys may have seen this on the lake. Geese like to jump on Play King of the Hill on this and flatten them all last year. So we redesigned them. So you notice they all look different. So they're all out there now. We got them out last weekend, and hopefully we'll get some loons nesting on them. It can take a couple of years for loons. Well, we kind of don't want to talk too much about where they exactly are. Just if you see one, kind of leave it alone, give it a wide berth. Know that loons, they don't like attention. So we sponsored Memorial Day paddles and Labor Day paddles in the past. There's actually Chisago Lakes, I believe they're calling themselves the Chisago Lakes Paddle Club. It's kind of taken over. That's sort of a new group that's coming together. So they're going to sponsor the next one, which is going to be Memorial Day at 9 o'clock. And it's going to be from Chisago Park to Minoso, I believe you pronounce it. That's the new park that's part of the Anderson Peninsula for the Amundsen Park. They'll also be doing an AIS workshop on June 7th. If you want more information, you can email Bill Mack. We'll learn a little bit more about this, but there's a Lawns to Lagoons program, which is basically adding, for us, there's a very generous county and LID reimbursement if you want to dedicate some of your lakeshore property to pollinator gardens. I took advantage of some of this. I have like 600 feet of lakeshore, and we dedicated a couple hundred feet to be pollinator gardens. So if you want to be interested in see how it goes, we just did that in the fall. If you know where I live, you'll see there's some flags, and hopefully we'll have some pretty flowers along the lake, and that'll be dedicated to lakeshore. There'll be more information on that in Barb's. After many years of trying, we finally have an adopt-a-drain program. So the adopt-a-drain program is a statewide program. Actually, it started in Minnesota. It's in several states now, and it allows people to go and adopt one of the storm drains that's near their house, and you get to name it, and then the idea is that you keep things from going into that drain. Every bit of trash and leaves and debris that go in the drain means we get bad water quality, right? So it's one way to keep the kind of algae blooms and things out of the lake by adopting a drain. There'll be some more information on that coming too. So now I'm going to ask Barbara to come up. Barbara Heidtan is the Chisago County Water Resource Education Specialist.
Thanks a lot. Good evening, everybody. Nice to see you here. Hi, Jerry. I see you hiding right back there.
Oh, Jerry was the other one I wanted to say hi.
Fantastic. And I have a clicker. So fancy. Oh, we'll see how much I mess this up. That'll be great.
And hold that mic close to your mouth so we can hear.
I am holding it close to my mouth so you all can hear me so well. All right. Good evening, everybody. As Dan mentioned, my name is Barbara Heitkamp, and I am a water resources specialist. And I actually work for the Lower St. Croix Watershed Partnership, which does include Chisago County. But a lot of you are probably wondering, what is the Lower St. Croix Watershed Partnership? And so if you've heard of the One Watershed, One Plan initiative that's being spearheaded in Minnesota by the Board of Soil and Water Resources, is this idea of being able to start grouping kind of larger sub-watersheds together that crosses political boundaries. And so the idea is that you're able to get together groups of local government partners who then are able to create a comprehensive watershed management plan to help guide protection, preservation, and restoration of our natural resources throughout the watershed. So the Lower St. Croix watershed is inclusive of Washington County, Chisago County, the majority of it. There's a very small western edge of Chisago that is not, but then portions also of Isanti, Anoka, and Pine County that are all in the watershed. And so this partnership is actually all of these partners that you can see right here. And so we have soil and water conservation districts, we have counties, and then in Washington County, we also have a lot of these watershed organizations. And there's also one in Anoka County as well. And so the idea is that we're able to pool resources, we're able to share resources, and then I've been hired as an educator to travel throughout the basin, kind of working with, so all of these folks are kind of my boss, which is an interesting thing to, I get pulled in a lot of different directions. But what's nice is that in working in the watershed, there's a lot of very similar themes that you see popping out all over the basin. And so my job overall is to really promote the message that conservation is cool. So being able to look at our landscapes and understand that the status quo practices, the way that we've been managing our landscapes, in many ways have led to a lot of the environmental problems that we have and that we're trying to deal with. And so what can we do about that? And so I like to consider myself being kind of the hip person that kind of knows what people are doing and the different practices that people are adopting to try to better and more sustainably manage our water resources. And one of the main thrusts of that is that adopting these measures isn't looking to take away, it's looking to help enhance. And so you're able to continue to enjoy using the lake, using the landscape in ways that you enjoy, while also being able to take care of it in such a way that's better for managing our natural resources. And so where are you going to see me? I'm going to start popping up all over the basin. And so you're going to see me at events like this. You're going to see me working with some really cool people. So there's Susanna right there. and also telling some good stories. And so one of the main things I hear over and over in working in environmental education is that people want to hear from their neighbors. They want to hear what's going on locally. And so just being able to tell stories to people who have already done some of these practices or adopted some of these practices and have had success or lessons learned from them, and just being able to tell them, because it's that neighbor-to-neighbor interaction that's actually much more powerful than just me coming in and being like, you should do this. And so, speaking to my crowd and to this audience, being able to understand what makes living on a lake valuable. Obviously, you enjoy the lake enough that you want to own property along it. And what are the things that you enjoy about it? There's obviously the aesthetics, recreation. It's a beautiful area. You're able to boat, you're able to fish, you're able to paddle. Habitat, so just being able to enjoy the wildlife associated with the lake. Property values, being able to own a really cool piece of real estate, obviously an investment. But all of these things really revolve around having clean water, right? And so just making sure that we keep that as our central theme and our central focus means that we're able to promote a lot of these other things, these good stewardship practices that are going to help better ensure that we're going to have clean water to enjoy doing all of those things that we find so valuable on our lakes. And so being able to capture runoff or minimize runoff by minimizing those impervious surfaces. And so recognizing that while we are used to seeing that lawn to shoreline, that might not necessarily lead to the best water quality outcome, right? And so reducing the use of fertilizers, stabilizing shorelines, but not making it look so nice and cut and clean with riprap, but maybe making it look a little messy with some really cool native plants that have super deep roots that not only will stabilize your shoreline, but also act as habitat for pollinators, and also be able to minimize runoff and filter pollutants. And that helps promote healthier ecosystems. And then obviously just being able to be much more aware of what the aquatic invasive invaders we're looking at and how to identify them, how to be able to distinguish native from invasive, and do what we can to promote and identify them. So Dan already stole a lot of my thunder with a lot of the programs that I'm going to be talking about. But just to mention them, so he talked about the long-side legumes, and so you're seeing these grants pop up all over the state because people are really responding to the fact that our pollinators are in trouble. And so the long-side legumes program was first initiated trying to help the endangered rusty patch bumblebee. And so there are several areas in the basin that have been designated as priority 1 or priority 2 areas. And so, as Dan mentioned, you have the dark green areas, priority 1, and you can see that some of the lakes are in that. There are some of the shorelines that are in priority 2. The cool thing is that the grant that he was specifically talking about, there is actually another pot available as well. So this is kind of an ongoing thing. But the specific grant that he's talking about right now is very aggressive. They have to spend $15,000 in 1 year. And so there is money to do these projects, and you can spend up to $1,500 from the long-side legumes grant, and then the LIB will be able to do some cost share as well. And Susanna and Ken are probably going to be able to talk about that a little bit more. But there are flyers on the table about this, so if you have been on the fence and thinking about, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't, we'd love to talk to you more about it. It's being spearheaded by the folks at the Soil and Water Conservation District. They're pretty cool people to work with. So that is a great program. And what it does is you're incorporating both function and beauty, right? And so you have a really beautiful shoreline, and the thing is it doesn't have to be your entire shoreline. It can just be a portion of it. We still want you to be able to retain access. We still want you to be able to utilize the yards you want. Like I like this one. This one's in the Rice Creek Watershed. They still have that little fire pit right here by the lake, being able to overlook things. But you're able to get a lot of really cool function out of that shoreline versus just having lawn there. And you don't have to deal with geese, which is pretty awesome too. One other really cool program that we've been starting to partner a bit more with. The group is a statewide group called the Minnesota River Lakes and Advocates. And this group is specifically for lakeshore owners. They work a lot with lake associations, and one of their main programs that they're trying to promote is this Lake Steward program. So if you have you're just interested in learning more about, well, how am I doing on my shoreline practices? You know, would they consider this a good shoreline? Would they consider this something that needs improvement? And you don't necessarily want to get into it too much. There's the Minnesota Score Your Shore program, which is excellent. But the really cool thing about the Lake Steward program is that they have an online quiz. So you can walk out to your shoreline, you can have your phone in your hand or a tablet, and you can take this 14-question quiz. And what's great about it is that it shows you, like, okay, you're focusing on the upland zone, you're looking specifically at the shoreline zone, so they really do walk you through kind of what you're looking at and how to kind of estimate what you have going on. What's cool about this then is that the results of that quiz then go into a database, and so we're actually able to track, it's more of a community engagement tool. You get information about your lake association and what people are doing along your lake. And what's cool and what would be amazing is being able to find, so each a lake association is able to designate a lake steward volunteer. And this is kind of the point person for the Minnesota Rivers and Lakes and Advocates, but they also can go out and talk to their neighbors. And so if there's a specific action or something that you're confused about, it is this person, your neighbor, who would be able to come out and chat with you, right? And of course, if you get, so it's a point system, and if you go within, like, I think it's, 900 to 1,000, you can be designated a lake steward, and of course, everybody loves signs. So being able to put up a cool sign on your property. And you can put the Lake Association logo associated on there as well. And so everybody's able to see how your lake is taking the health of your lake seriously. So it's a cool program. And then the last one, obviously, is Adopt a Drain. And so we were able to officially get into the system over this past month. It is a completely volunteer-elected program. We are able to now pull the data for everything that's happening in Chisago County, so we know how many drains are adopted, how much debris has been removed. So this program was initiated by Hamline University in 2014. Since then, they've had almost 10,000 Minnesotans adopt a drain. They have adopted nearly 17,000, actually over 17,500 drains in Minnesota. And so a lot of people do more than one, which you're free and welcome to do more than one. And they've removed almost 475,000 pounds of debris. And if you think about the fact that 1 pound of phosphorus can equal 500 pounds of algal growth, 475,000 pounds is pretty impressive. And so what I love about this program is that it's quick, it's simple, it's easy, it's great. If you've been kind of thinking about dabbling in conservation, this is an amazing program to get started with. It is family friendly, it is good for scout groups, church groups, school groups, and it helps people understand how our storm drains connect to our lakes and rivers. So this is my Girl Scout troop. They went and actually adopted all 11 storm drains around their school. We stenciled them. And it's great because each one of them actually has their drain. And they're all named, and they're adorably named. But it's just a really great way to make that connection that what you're taking out here, even if you think of leaves and grass clippings and dirt being natural materials, which they are, they belong on the land, not in our water. So all of this is really important work. It is not fast work at all. But in the end, I do think it is cool. And so I look forward to seeing you guys out there. So this is my email address. I have materials in the back there along with the county's table. And I also have a blog. So I'm going to be writing up cool stories, so feel free, like and subscribe and all that jazz. But I appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you, Barb. Does anyone have any questions for Barb? Anyone want to ask anything right now?
Information back there we can
The information to contact me is back on that table. Absolutely. All right. Well, I'll be back there to.
I have a question.
Yes, Chris.
Does the one watershed, one plan, does that create any funding opportunities for projects in the watershed?
It sure does, Chris. Indeed. And so Chisago County, the Chisago Soil and Water Conservation District, so we have funding as it pertains to lake shores, funding as it pertains, we're working a lot in agriculture as well. We actually just hired an agronomist that's going to be working a lot with the county farmers to implement conservation practices. We're working in urban and developed areas, so looking at rain gardens, looking at being able to do, working with lake associations, even trying to raise awareness of how subdivisions a lot of times have stormwater maintenance related infrastructure that they need to take care of, building education on that. And so there's going to be some exciting fun things happening. There's an enhanced street sweeping program that we're hoping to introduce in different communities throughout the county this year. So get used to seeing that Lower St. Croix Watershed Partnership logo and being able to promote our partners as well, because we're going to be doing some good work.
Thank you, Barbara.
Good job.
And for instance, I just want to say, we've been trying for a number of years to get the Adopt a Drain program instituted here, but it was sort of ridiculously expensive and just couldn't come with the money. So not only did Barbara make it happen, but she was able to happen at an affordable level. So there isn't a lot of tax money going for this. It's a very reasonable rate as part of the One Watershed plan. I also want to say I saw a rusty patch bumblebee today in my yard. It's the first time I've ever seen one. It was kind of neat to see. I wanted to talk about 2021 just quick a minute. We did a lot of the normal stuff, ice cleanups and rafts, and we did Phragmites. We didn't do AIS mitigation for curly leaf and milfoil last year because it just sort of didn't warrant it. And we started trying to have pizza parties and some get-togethers, but with COVID, we really just wound up having Zoom meetings. Again, I just kind of wanted to stress that because of COVID, we had to do some stuff like suspend the bylaws for the election so that we could get people to continue on. And we want to do things like the steward program that Barb mentioned. We're not actually participating in that program because we don't have volunteers who are willing to kind of do the rating and get the signs and kind of follow that through. So if anyone's interested in trying to spearhead that, we have a little bit of money and we have people that are interested in helping, but we just kind of need someone to really pick it up and run with it. So then 2022, past some planned activities. Again, we did an ice cleanup. We got the Loon Rafts out. We will be doing Phragmites mitigation. We've started doing AIS. We actually will have a bunch more information on it, but we plan to do curly leaf and milfoil mitigation this year. We're going to spend money. We're going to do work because we know that with the lake level dropping, we've seen a lot more weeds. And we feel like that's really the core of what we do as an association to make our lakes usable, right? We make them navigable. That's the fundamental thing that we do, along with the funding from the LID and the county. We'll have a 4th of July parade, and to try to get back on track with regular meetings and trying to build thing, we're gonna have a regular recurring meeting. We're setting the first Tuesday of the month, bi-monthly, 6:30 p.m. at Eagles Ridge. The first meeting will be on July 5th. We're thinking we'll have a pizza party because everyone will be kind of worn out from July 4th. But we really want to try and have this be more regular, have people more involved. So come on out. You don't have to volunteer for anything. Don't feel obligated. But if you want to, we'd be happy to have you. We do have 2 elected officer positions. President and treasurer are open. And we'll have a vote on that later. I just wanted to talk quick a minute. Since president is term limited, I can't run again. Here are some of the responsibilities for president. It's an open spot. If anyone wants to say, hey, I'd like to be president, we'll have voting. You're able to nominate yourself. Feel free. Here are some of the duties and responsibilities for president. And treasurer is also open. And these are the responsibilities for treasurer as well. So just look. I know someone's like, oh yeah, I want to be the treasurer for the Lake Association. All right. So this is the financial review. We're going to ask Steve to talk about the financials. Come on down, Steve.
Good evening. I'm Steve Croix is my name. I'm treasurer for life. So if anybody wants to be treasurer, let me know. This is just a very quick review of what we do. The concept is, what do we do with the money? So 2021, one of our main expenses went to, we donate to a couple of organizations, the local Chamber of Commerce, Minnesota Lakes and Rivers Advocates, that was mentioned earlier. They're basically like a lobbying group, probably the most active one for lakeshore owners in Minnesota. We also donate money to the Minnesota Aquatic Invasive Species Research Center. That's based at the main U, and we've worked with them closely. They've come up with us and helped start up the Phragmites treatment program. So we were like a pilot project for the state. So they do lots and lots of work for invasive species. And then we also kick in money for the Let's Go fishing pontoons that are operating around here. They take veterans and some handicapped folks out and older folks out fishing on pontoons in the local lake. So good volunteer organization. A lot of the stuff is donated. Our money basically goes to gas for the pontoon. We also did some, we'll get into this a little later, but the only treatment we did last year were the Phragmites. These are the, we'll get into that a lot more, but they're the shoreland that species, and they're basically like 10 to 12 feet tall. We've been working on that for a long time with the folks from the university. The spending for the treatment, this is the second time we went through with the Phragmites treatment? Third time? All right. Third time. And basically the Lake Improvement District covers 90% of it. So the lake associations only have to cover the other 10%. So we spent $74 to get the whole Chisago Lakes area treated for Phragmites. So good use of money. Operating expenses, $375, mostly P.O. box, some decals, meeting expenses, some miscellaneous odds and ends. We did spend $697 for the loon nest, construction materials for the Eagle Scout who built the loon nest, and that was shown earlier on. We're going to get those out. They're out on the lake already for the second year. So that's basically what we spent for the year, $1,502. Memberships were $1,800. So our checking balance, and this is basically a checkbook run organization. We don't have financial things. We don't have any CDs or anything like that. Basically, we're up to $8,000, which is better than we've been in many years. When we first started, we had $2,000 and $3,000 in the bank, so we couldn't do a lot of stuff with that. So that's where it sits. Questions from anyone on this? No? Okay. Well, thanks for your new memberships.
All right, thanks, Steve. So now John and Gary are going to talk about AIS treatments. Don't fight, guys. Go on.
So we've been treating AIS for the last 8 years. We've treated Phragmites for the last 3. We do need new AIS detectors. It's really easy to learn to be able to spot invasive species in our lakes. It's key. If it gets pervasive, it'll get out of control and it'll reduce the water quality and boating quality and all that. So curly leaf pondweed, Eurasian Milfoil, we've treated before. Phragmites, we've treated zebra mussels, and we're part of the detector program. There's some detector plates around here, up on the table there. So, and then the county lid goes out and tests for villagers, which are the free-swimming versions of the zebra mussels. They do that during the season when they're out swimming. So, and that's really, the detector plates tell you that you're in really trouble. The villager treatment will get, or the testing will tell you that you're going to be in trouble. Once you get into trouble, they haven't figured out a way of getting rid of it. This is our Phragmites program. We've treated, this will be the 4th year of treatment. This is the formal notification of the treatment. The map is a little busy. You see red is bad, green is not quite so bad, yellow is not quite so bad, and green is good. So if you look at there's one down here that has 10, and so there's 10 stands, individual stands in that spot. The green means that they've been eradicated, and yellow, that means they've been diminished, and red is that they were fresh and just treated this last year. So the goal is to get all of those sightings green. So if there's identification guides along the side, it's a really nasty weed. It grows 14, 15 feet tall, thick as you can't see through it. It's going to be so thick, and it's fairly nasty. Any questions?
It's the 4th year of treatment for which lakes? All of them?
4th year of treatment within this lake association. We've been working with the University of Minnesota for the last 7 years. For the 3 years previous was identification, location, and verification. And then we've been working with the DNR very closely because we're kind of a trial in the state, this lake association or the Lake Improvement District. We're kind of breaking new ground for how the DNR operates and how we treat and how we track. Looking at this data, this is the first time I've seen the data look like this. So, because you want to find everything eradicated. So,
I think these are the treatment areas this is all the areas we've seen it, right?
yeah, within our lake association, we haven't seen any on Croix yet.
Yeah.
And there's yet.
It's a very small stand on the north end.
Okay.
Show you a picture of the
We'll meet.
Yeah.
We'll meet after. But you can see, there's a lot. Actually, this Chisago County Water Treatment Plant uses invasive Phragmites. Hopefully, they will be migrating from that. It's a bit of a large cost. So the lake associations on our lakes have been working to eradicate on our lakes. Lake Improvement District is working within the Lake Improvement District, and the county is working countywide. So everybody is working as hard as they can to get rid of this within our county. So you don't want it. If you ever drive over by Green Bay, you'll know exactly what Phragmites out of control looks like, and it's not something we want here.
And it was worse on North Center and South Center, right?
Yeah, by the courthouse had some really good stands.
And there was none on Green Lake, right? Or very, very little.
They had 2 small stands, and they were marked as native, but that's questionable. So, any other questions?
Hi, I'm John Arrett, and I've actually been around for 20 years with this lake association. I was on the Lake Improvement District, and we got a grant, and Claudia Hagseth and David Johnson and I sat down and we mailed invitations to everybody that had property on North, South Lindstrom and Chisago Lake, and we held a meeting 20 years ago, and we started this lake association. And Jack Doepke was there, and he became the social director. And I want you to know, the best parties the Lake Association ever had were when Jack Doepke was our social director. And I was kind of vice president for life back then. But anyway, so Lake Association is, congratulations, 20 years. And another thing I'd like to mention is I was on the lid. And when I was on the lid 25 years ago, or a long time ago, I was on the lid for probably 10 years. And we were mainly a group that tried to keep the lake levels down. So we were, getting the water out of the lakes so that the shoreline, you had some shoreline. People used to call my wife and say, my property's value is going way down because the water's way up, and and my wife would say, I'd like to find that guy too, I'm not gonna. But a lot of people complain, about government doesn't work. I'd like you to know that here, government works. The Lake Improvement District, and I work with Chris on the Chisago County Water Board, and government works here. It really does. Your Lake Improvement District, and the water, it works. So, anyway, the Lake Association, and I don't think Gary and Mary Kay get enough credit for the Phragmites. The number one place in Minnesota that's dealt with Phragmites is Chisago County. And it's primarily because of Gary and Mary Kay. I was at a workshop last week on invasive species, and they talk about Phragmites, and the place that got mentioned as the top place for dealing with it is right here. So, and these guys are volunteers. So, Lake Association volunteers. So, we need volunteers. When the Lake Association started, then we said, what are people concerned about? And the number one thing they were concerned about was water quality. That was the biggest concern. So, and it's been our biggest concern, and things have improved so much when the lid kind of changed its focus from just keeping the water at a certain level to concern about water quality. That improved things tremendously. And when Jerry Spetzman took over, I was still on the Lake Improvement District then. Since Jerry Spetzman took over the lid, things have improved dramatically. And then Chris got on the lid, and Chris did a great job of emphasizing water quality. So things are, if you look at the water quality levels or measurements that we have in the last 20 years, things have improved dramatically. And that's because we have really good organizations that are really working towards water quality. Okay, so AIS, this map here, you can't really see it. There's a lot of yellow there for different places, but we're looking for this year, the Lake Association, we got a grant to treat Croix Lake and to treat Chisago Lake. Applied for South Lindstrom, I didn't get that one, but we got some grants from the state, and fortunately we were really lucky. We have the Lake Improvement District, where your tax dollars, everybody in the Lake Improvement District pays a certain amount of money, and it goes into part of it goes into treatment of the lake, so we're really lucky. So this year, if you look at this, I don't know if you can see, there's Area 1 and Area 2. So, was out last Thursday, taking a survey, the delineation, where are the weeds, and okay, so we looked up here between North Lindstrom and South Lindstrom Lake, and we were looking for curly leaf pondweed, and there was some there, but there's a lot of good weeds out here too, so you can't kill everything because you don't want to kill all the good weeds with the curly leaf. So we're probably not going to treat there this year. Whoops. Back. All right. Let me go back. So this area here, we always try to, there's a delay. Here we go. All right, okay, so the channel here for curly-leaf pondweed, which is that weed, you know, that comes up every spring and then it kind of takes over the lake and then it usually dies off by the 4th of July. So it's a real nuisance and we've treated...
Cabbage? Is it nicknamed cabbage? Is that the one?
No, it's not cabbage, but it's a mess, you know, if you... Yeah, it's a mess. There's another weed called cabbage. That's, yeah. So this area here, we're going to do some treatment in here, and we're going to do some treatment in this channel here, kind of this area 1 and area 2. Not sure how much we're going to treat, but that's where we're going to treat. We looked over here in this area here, and there were too many good weeds and not very much curly-leaf pondweed. I was surprised. Over here, very little curly-leaf pondweed. We looked over here in this bay. There wasn't much curly-leaf pondweed, a lot of good weeds. This area here, going into Swimmer's Slough, lots of good weeds and not much curly-leaf pondweed. So what we're going to do this year is do some treatment in the channel and this channel here. And as you probably know, shallower water has more curly-leaf pondweed than deep water. And so you find a lot of it, especially in the southern area here of Chisago Lake. So our treatment this year, we're going to do some curly-leaf pondweed probably in the next couple of weeks. We're going to go out and treat here in the channel between the lakes and here. So that's our areas. All right, let's see if I can get to the next one. All right, this is going to be for Eurasian milfoil. In 20 years ago, we didn't have Eurasian milfoil. They had it in Green Lake. We didn't have it in North-South Lindstrom or in Chisago Lake. But 2010, we got Eurasian milfoil. And Eurasian milfoil is a pain, as you know, because it lasts, it doesn't die off like curly-leaf pondweed, hangs around all year like a dirty shirt, and so you can't get rid of it. So what we're going to do this year is we're going to do a delineation. We're going to go out, I'm going to go out with a guy from the engineer from the association, from the business we hire to do the delineation, and we're going to look here for Eurasian milfoil in the channel here, again, kind of around the island here. We'll see what we have in this area here. So we're going to take a pretty good look at the lake for the 3 lakes for Eurasian milfoil, and then see what we find, see what we can get permitted, and then do treatment. Fortunately, we have a grant from the DNR that we applied for and we got, which is a 2-year grant, which $5,000 for this, and we're happy to get it. We get it 2 years, and we have the lid money, which is crucial because this is a great return on investment. As Dan pointed out, we get 90%, okay, paid for. So we can do a lot of treatment, and this is and it wouldn't happen. We couldn't treat it. We could not treat these lakes without a lake association. If we didn't have this organization, we wouldn't be doing the treatment. And, you know, Steve said, well, we have $8,000. Most of that money goes to treating the lake. That's what we use. So, next one. All right, let's try this one. All right, Croon Lake. Anybody from Croon Lake here? All right, well, great. Okay, so Croix Lake, last year, Chris Urich came out and did a delineation survey of Eurasian Milfoil in this area here. This is what we found. Now, the problem with treatment is you can't treat within 150 feet of shoreline, because then that's basically you're helping someone, private property, help out. We can treat beyond that, because that's considered a channel. That's the lake everybody uses, but from your shoreline out for 150 feet, that's your responsibility. So she found these areas here, and okay, I thought there was another. So we are going to treat the areas that have been identified outside the 150-foot area. Our plan is to go out and do a delineation. And again, if someone from Croix Lake would like to go out with the EOR specialist and do this, maybe the 2nd or 3rd of June, that would be great. And find out where the Eurasian milfoil is, and can we treat it there? So that's a plan, and we have money to do this treatment. So between what the grant is and what the lid has and our lake association, we can do some treatment. We can't do it within the 150 feet. Now, there's been some discussion by people who would like to treat within the 150-foot area around the lake. So if you are, close to the shoreline, if you are on the shoreline in these areas and you want to treat, you can do that. We can get a permit from the DNR, but it's going to have to be paid for by the individuals. We did that. See if I can go backwards here. Oh, okay. All right, I got it, I think, yeah. So down here on the south end of Chisago, some of you may remember, we went down Leah Lane. Dan was the start at the very north part, and I went all the way down the whole Leah Lane, and we had 20-some people that all agreed that they would pay, I think it was $200, and we treated the whole shoreline. So Lake Management came out and did the whole shoreline, and it worked marvelously, okay? It stayed down for a long time. Yep.
What do you use to treat it?
I think they used 2,4-D. I think it was 2,4-D. I think they used was what I could be wrong, but I'd have to look it up. But the treatment works, and it's just like the curly leaf pondweed. We've treated curly leaf pondweed in the past in the channel here and down the middle of the lake here. And when I was out there last Thursday, we hardly found any. There was a little bit. It was like from a scale of 1 to 4, there was 1. So the treatment worked. So it has kept the curly leaf pondweed down in this area here and this area here, and the Eurasian milfoil, same thing. But if you don't treat, So for Croix Lake, we're going to plan, we're not doing curly leaf pondweed on Croix Lake, but we're going to plan to do Eurasian milfoil. So that's what's going on so far this year. And again, this is a big factor in water quality. If you can, you can get the curly leaf pondweed and the Eurasian milfoil out, water quality goes up. Okay, so any questions? Yeah.
Say, John, can we wait any Croix Lake person, if you have questions after the meeting, we'll talk about it there.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, thank you.
Association. Each individual property owner can get a permit, get the applicator, get a delineation, and pay for an individual property. And what we're trying to do is coordinate all of those areas that have been cited and do it with one permit, one delineation, which we got a grant for, and then divide the cost. The cost is by acre, and the more acres you treat, the cheaper the cost is. So by doing it all in one group, we can get the cost for everybody down.
But when you get this permit through lake management, you are only allowed to let them treat half of your shoreline.
With the delineation, the delineation will find out where the Eurasian is. And if it's on half, they can treat half. If it's on the whole thing, they can treat the whole thing. So it's
as a private person, when I ask them to do that, I can't.
It's a different permit.
Oh, yeah.
So, and it's kind of a different, we'll talk about this later, but I wanted to, so we're trying to do it as a group. It is nothing for the Lake Association, but making Croix Lake a better place. And on Chisago Lake, we did the treatment for 2 years. That was about 4 or 5 years ago, and the Eurasian hasn't come back. So you can step on it hard, and then it'll let the natives come back, and it's a much better world. Otherwise, it'll just take over. So we'll talk, we can get together and talk about it later.
All right, thanks. And I'll just say personally, the lid is fantastic to work with. The DNR, on the other hand, can be really painful. All right, and there's multiple permits and different types and rules, and it can be really frustrating. And we have to do that. For a while, we could apply for a grant that would then allow us to spend that grant money on a thing that they were requiring us to do that we could do ourselves. That kind of thing, which gets really frustrating.
So strength in numbers is better.
It's definitely better. I just encourage everyone on Croix to get together and do this treatment. It really did make a huge difference for us, and we can only get reimbursed for the money for the treatment that's 150 feet from shore through the lid, and it's really important that you guys do your properties too, if you can. It really makes a big difference, and it lasts a number of years. So I would encourage everyone to participate in that. The big thing here that we're kind of going around is the DNR won't let you treat if you have a lot of native species mixed in with the invasives. And that's what happens. We have a whole bunch of information over there. These are 2 on curlyleaf and milfoil. You can take any of that information. But especially with milfoil, there's a native called coontail that looks very similar if you're not kind of trained to differentiate them. So you may see something that you think is milfoil and it's actually coontail. But that's the kind of thing that keeps us in a situation where you have a whole lot of weeds and the DNR says you can't treat any of it maybe because most of them are natives. So that's something to keep in mind too, okay? All right, so then our next presentation is our guests Camden Drapo and Susanna Witkowski. Sorry, Susanna. So come on up, guys.
Hi, can you hear me? Okay, great. Well, thank you so much for being able to be here tonight. Again, my name is Susanna. I'm the Water Resource Manager for Chisago County, and I spend half of my time currently working for the Chisago Lakes Lake Improvement District, and then the other half managing the aquatic invasive species and water plan programs countywide. And so I'm here with Camden tonight. He's going to introduce himself.
Hello everyone, my name is Camden. I'm the AIS specialist for the county, and I'm also the lead watercraft inspector. And I'm sure pretty soon you'll start seeing some of our watercraft inspectors out at the boat launches. If not, you've seen some of them already.
So great, thank you. We're going to talk briefly about our aquatic invasive species, our AIS program for the county, and then Camden's going to talk specifically about our zebra mussel watch program and the need for volunteers. And so the county has a comprehensive AIS program consisting of the watercraft inspections that Camden had referred to. We also decontaminate watercraft in the county. We make sure that we have appropriate signage at all of the AIS signage at all of the public water accesses. We educate our boaters and residents about aquatic invasive species. We work with our county sheriff's office to enforce our AIS laws and statutes, state laws and statutes. And we also have a number of early detection programs that we're going to talk tonight about to see if we have invasive species present in our lakes and rivers, and then rapid response plans to treat invasive species if we do find them in our lakes and rivers countywide. And so with our aquatic invasive species inspection program, we receive funding from the state of Minnesota each year to implement our comprehensive AIS program, including the watercraft inspections. And so we work with the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District, where some of our county inspectors work within at the public water accesses in the district. And so overall, we have inspectors working at 24 accesses countywide, including here in the lake in the Chisago Lakes area, and then also along the St. Croix River and in the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. So you'll see us at our inspectors at many different launches during the year. And last year, we had about 16 inspectors working countywide, or in all of those areas within northern Washington County and our county. And they conducted over 18,000 inspections. That was 18,000 individual opportunities to connect with boaters, educate boaters on how to prevent the spread of invasive species. And so again, most of the inspections happen in the busy summer months when boaters are out on the water in June and July. And we make sure that we have our watercraft inspectors working at the busiest times on the weekends when the boaters are out. And the majority of our inspections occur at our busiest accesses, which you know the access at Chisago South Lindstrom is the busiest access within the county. And so we make sure that we have inspectors working at that access. We also have some inspectors at other busy accesses in the Chisago Lakes area, North and South Center Lake. So again, we're trying to reach all of the accesses, including at having inspectors at our smaller accesses as well. Our decontamination unit, some of you have seen, it's a high pressure hot water wash unit that is used to remove any invasive species that are on the exterior of the boats, also to flush hot water through the interior areas and the motors if there are any invasive species present. So last year, our watercraft inspectors completed 93 decontaminations. That was in an effort to prevent any invasive species from spreading to our lakes and rivers in the county. We also, as I had mentioned, work with the county sheriff's office, where our officers will work at the accesses. And again, they are the only ones that can enforce our AIS laws. Our watercraft inspectors out there, they cannot issue citations, they cannot issue warnings for violations of state law. So last year, they did issue one citation. Their boaters are not allowed to transport aquatic plants from lake to lake or river to river. Also, many warnings were issued. So it's great to have that partnership working with our county sheriff's officers. And then each year, we make sure that we have our decontamination unit visible and present. So we partner with the Wild Rivers Conservancy to hold a decontamination blitz along the St. Croix River. Work with the DNR, where they'll have their decontamination unit at different accesses along the river. We'll have ours at Osceola. Now this year there is construction at the Osceola public water access, so we may shift our decon blitz to the Taylor's Falls access. But it looks like that construction will happen through 2023. And now we're going to switch gears here. Camden will talk a little bit more, and so thank you.
Yeah. So I'm in charge of our bait disposal program. So at some of the boat launches around the county, or throughout the entire county, we have these small waste bins that allow boaters to have a proper way to dispose of live bait instead of dumping it into lakes. So it's been a great program, and we partner with the Comfort Lake Forest Lake Watershed District. Throughout the county, just off the top of my head, I know we have them at North Center, South Center, and Green Lake, and Chisago South Lindstrom. And part of my job in Susanna is doing a lot of community education and public outreach. Last year, due to COVID, we were only able to get to 2 different festivals and events. This year, we're just getting started, and we're actually up to 3 already. So we're going to be all over the county. We're going to do a couple parades, and we'll be at the county fair as well. I know this was kind of talked at through some other presentations earlier. With the Wild Rivers Conservancy, we partner with them to check for veligers, zebra mussel veligers and spiny water fleas. For the most part, I believe the only area of concern was the St. Croix River. They found veligers, but they're going to do another survey next year just to check into that. That was just north of Taylor's Falls. So the big reason why I'm here tonight was to look for volunteers for our Zebra Mussel Watch program. As you can see, we have our, I'll go into more detail in that actually after. This is our water access monitoring program. My job is to go around through the entire county. I go to all the public water boat launches, and I do a, blanking on the quick name. Basically, I work from left to right all the way across the access. I throw a double-sided rake, and throughout my survey, I'm recording all the native species and invasive species that I find. And this year, I was the one that found the Eurasian Milfoil at Croix Lake. I reported that to the DNR, and then we went out with Chris, Jerry, and I, and we went out there, and I used our fancy fishing sonar, dropped waypoints at all the different clumps of the Eurasian Milfoil, transferred that into a spreadsheet, and that's been sent to the Lake Association and Chris at the DNR.
A couple slides more before we talk more about our Zebra Mussel Watch program. But as Camden mentioned, when we are increasing our efforts to find invasive species, sometimes we find invasive species. But it's good. We need to find them early, and so we partner with the Wild Rivers Conservancy on Starry Trek. And this is a statewide intensive search for the invasive starry stonewort. This year will be our fourth annual Starry Trek. It's always held the third weekend in August, and we do need to have participants, so I always send out information to the Lake Association. So if you're able to help, that would be great. We do a similar type of search as Camden had just described, checking at all of the public water accesses. We look for starry stonewort, but we're looking for other invasive species as well. And luckily, we're not finding starry stonewort, other invasives, but we are finding Chinese mystery snails that have not been previously reported in our online and web mapping systems. So we're gonna continue on and keep looking for those invasive species. A couple other notes on invasive Phragmites. So I know that Gary and John had talked quite a bit about the search for invasive Phragmites here in the Chisago Lakes area. And we do have a newly formed planning committee or planning team that's working together to keep addressing what's happening with invasive Phragmites here in the Chisago Lakes area and then countywide. And that's myself and Camden and Gary and Jerry, all those mentioned here today, Katie with Wild Rivers Conservancy, Julia with the Minnesota Aquatic Invasive Species Research Center. And so we are, as far as countywide, we have started to search, doing roadside surveys countywide in areas outside of the Lake Improvement District to identify and map invasive Phragmites. And we are not finding invasive Phragmites outside of the Chisago Lakes area, which is great. Last year we covered a number of townships, Chisago Lake, North and South, Lent, Franconia townships, and Harris. Only found 2 populations that had not been previously reported in the online web mapping systems. So hopefully this continues. We're going to search for a couple more townships this year, and then we'll be able to report on that survey as well. And so just wanted to note an upcoming workshop. We have some flyers. We don't have a slide on this, but we have some flyers about our aquatic invasive species workshop working with the Wild Rivers Conservancy that will happen on May 17th. It is it's in person and virtual. So we're holding it at the Chisago County Government Center in Center City. And then there's a link to join virtually as well. So we have some flyers if you'd like to take one. We're going to talk about invasive Phragmites, monitoring and management options, starry stonewort research, and flowering rush ID and management. And then there are copies of our PowerPoint available. We have that if you'd like a paper copy. But I think we'll go back to the slide 4, Zebra Mussel Watch, and continue.
I'll keep this short. I'm sure everyone's probably antsy to get out here, but basically this program, we last year had 56 volunteers, and they're hanging this zebra mussel early detection plate off their dock. Ultimately what we're doing is we're providing a place for zebra mussel villagers to attach, and if they're in the lake, our volunteers are checking once a month, and if we determine that there are actual zebra mussels on there, we will work with the DNR and provide a rapid response plan. And I am currently looking for 1 volunteer in Croix Lake, 2 volunteers on South Lindstrom, and 2 volunteers on North Lindstrom. And that'll complete my quota for each of the lakes in the area. If anyone also knows anyone that lives on Horseshoe Lake, kind of north of this area, I live in Harris, we're looking for 2 volunteers out there as well.
Do you have enough on Chisago Lake?
Yes, I was looking for 1 on Chisago, and Craig back there took the last plate for that. But if you have any other questions, I'll answer back.
2 on North Lindstrom.
Yep, 2 on the Lindstrom chain, 1 on Croix Lake for this area here. But, thank you guys.
Great, thank you, Camden and Susanna. So these are the zebra pets. I just wanted to mention that Camden, you have some here, right? If people want to take them right now, they can, right? So they're ready to go. Grab a couple. I'm on the Chisago City Park Commission, and I actually have one at home, and I have one on Leah Landing, which is near the DNR boat launch that I monitor. But it'd be good to have more. So anyone that's willing to do that work, please come forward. Okay. So just a couple of things. We'll be doing our 4th of July parade again. And a reminder, we kind of did things a little different. It worked fairly well. We started at 1:30 with judging. We did a President's Choice, which we've always done, and the Most Spirit. And then we did a People's Choice Award where people could vote. We took photos and people could vote on Facebook. And that'll keep going again, and the parade starts at 2. So we're looking forward to that. And then we'll be doing flotillas again. Flotilla just means we get together on the lake. Everyone on pontoons just kind of joins up, bring something to drink, and it's nice to bring something to share. We'll be doing June 11th, July 10th, which is also Carl Oscar Days weekend, and August 12th. And these kind of correspond to the full moons. There are a couple of days off, so we cover more of the weekend. So now we have an open floor Q&A.
Can I just say one thing?
Sure.
I just have to say,
This is Patty.
everybody that's on the board currently, we all are on Chisago Lakes, are on Chisago Lake. It'd be really nice to get other people from Cougar Lake, South, and North Lindstrom involved in this. It's really hard when it's just all of us are just on Chisago Lake. So I'd like to see a little step up from the other lakes to try and join with us.
Yeah, we try to represent the entire lake association, but the truth is that we all live on Chisago. Frankly, we're all mostly on the southern end of Chisago. So we really would like to have other people participate. And if you don't want to participate kind of at an executive committee level, which sounds so fancy, but what we kind of would like to do is have sort of ambassadors from each lake who just was in touch with their neighbors too, to kind of bring things forward and talk to their neighbors. So just to be a little bit more involved, we're going to have those regular occurring meetings, and so we just would like people to kind of plan on coming in. We want those to be quick and just social and not as drawn out as these things are. Okay, a little bit easier going.
Okay, I'd like to point out this organization almost died a number of times, and fortunately people would step up. Mary Kay, Joyce Anastasi stepped up, and last time Dan stepped up. So we've had, Jeff Angel did it for a long time. So we had a lot of people that have put in a lot of volunteer time, but, I'm getting old, and I don't know how much longer I have, and so, anyway.
All right, so I don't know if we made it clear. We could really use some volunteers and people involved. So open floor Q&A. One of the things that we get a lot of questions about is, hey, what's going on with the North Center, North Lindstrom channel area? Right now it's kind of become less critical because the water level's dropped enough that passages, at least with a pontoon, is kind of difficult. Chris DeBose has been working on that quite a bit, and he wanted to kind of give us an update on what could be happening in that area, and hopefully we'll be able to get through there soon.
Dan said I had to keep it short or he's going to appoint me president. So, that's probably one. What's that? That's probably one of the biggest questions I get is, about the channel. And one of the common myths is that, it's going around that, why don't we just dredge it? Or are, people that are worried that we're going to dredge it? We can't dredge it. I mean, if it was kind of a weird situation when the water came way down and then it started coming back up. We discovered that North Center and South Center filled up so much faster than Chisago and North Lindstrom and South Chisago, or South Lindstrom. And so if we dredged it, we could alter the water levels across the chain. So that was a no-no. The DNR said there's no way. So that kind of ruled out the dredging. There's a couple projects that we are planning for in the channel, and one of them is some bogs have moved in again, and even though the water level is low, somebody's been doing a good rain dance, so the water level's coming up and there is water flowing. I think you can get a kayak through there now. Not quite pontoon worthy, but maybe if you got a big motor and you power it up or something. But one of the things we're going to do is remove those bogs. And then the other is, right now the channel is kind of shaped like a V with the deepest part in the middle, the bottom of the V. And we can't dredge any deeper, but what we can do is we can widen it out and make it that same level as the bottom of the V all the way across and make it a little more pontoon friendly. So that's something we're looking at. It's not a for sure thing yet, but we're looking seriously at it, and we're doing some survey work, talking to the neighbors, doing some engineering studies and things like that to see how that would go. But in the meantime, continue the rain dance, because we do need another foot of water ourselves, so we're hoping that the water level keeps coming up. Any questions about anything? We've got, I'm involved with the Lake Improvement District, the water plan for the county, one watershed, one plan, I'm on all kinds of stuff. But, so if you have any questions about water, you know, I could probably at least steer you in the right direction if I don't know the answers. So feel free to give me a call or whatever, email if you ever have a question. So, thanks.
Thanks a lot, Chris. Also, one of the things that talking about doing though is maybe providing an area for snowmobiling too to pass through that area also, right?
Yeah, a shoulder along the side is one of the things we discussed.
Yeah, so I mean, I snowmobile through there. It's been really kind of rough the last few years. That's not been safe, and there's been people that have kind of gotten in right there. So it would be great just for the safety and for people to be able to commute in our areas. So any other questions anyone have generally? All right. Well then, Croon Lake people, why don't we meet over here and we can talk more about Croon Lake treatment. But with that, I'm going to call the meeting to a close. Thanks everyone for coming out. Appreciate it. I'll see you out for the 4th of July parade in July 5th at 6:30 at the Eagle Ridge Clubhouse for some pizza. Thank you, everybody.